claiming lands. The Spanish were the first Europeans to land in the New World, including America. However, the first ever colony in the New World was Jamestown. The Europeans started to colonize and seize territories from the natives, thus starting great locations like Plymouth, where pilgrims headed off from. The new colonists have expanded deeper into modern-day America regardless of tribal boundaries and borders, however caring much for the resources of silver, gold, farm produce, and hunting game. What the Europeans thought was the best strategy is to build a town and claim everything around it, but this caused several conflicts and wars like the King William's War. Pre-revolution. As resources depleted and there was nearly no valuable land left to claim, wars had to be started for the sake of aristocracy and favor for a lavish life. Just for these reasons, some Europeans thought it would be right to risk the lives of their own people at the front lines. Spain, Britain, and France were fighting many wars in the New World to use it as a battlefield. This, of course, meant that it would that in that time period, it would be tough for them to get along. During the 1700s to 1760, their conflicts grew and thickened into a war called the 7 Years' War. The 7 Years' War was fought by France, Russia, Austria against Prussia and Britain, both sides consisting of Indian tribes. It was fought from 1756 to 1763. The person who caused it was George Washington by sending high demands and threats to the French enemy. Age of taxes. As the British people's money went all on the war, they tried lending money from the colonies, which didn't work, which left them with one choice: taxation. Since this tax has no name, I will continue with calling it the trade tax. Basically, it was that the British can trade with the colonies and they would have been forced to pay for it. The stamp tax took place March 22nd, 1765, and it angered the colonies. The main cause of the tax being that the British were poor after the 7 Years' War, so they heavily taxed the colonies. The tax was basically that a vendor could put a stamp on any paper or documentation and gain more money than the actual price. The American Resistance. Rage. The colonists were infuriated by the taxes, and one thing led to another, and movements were held to repeal the taxes. They succeeded until the British decided to push more and more of them, and sent thousands of troops to stabilize the situation until it had started. The Boston Massacre. As the troops arrived, a small group of guards patrolled and got harassed by the resisting colonists. Soldiers and civilians joined in as the fighting tensed until the pressure affected the guards, so they had one choice. 5 townspeople were shot and killed before the madness had finally been thickened. The Boston Tea Party. After the massacre, a group of revolters called the Sons of Liberty had disguised themselves as Indians and made their way to the Boston harbor and threw British goods overboard, the main export being tea. This broke the British economy. The American Revolution, Part 1. After the meeting of important figures in the colonies and failed attempts to stop through negotiation, soldiers were stationed across America, and a conflict took place in Lexington, where killing happened on both sides at the same time, marking the start of the American Revolution. Pushing back. Directly after the first conflict, British troops retreated back to Boston while still being flanked. The militias had been sieging Boston while other militia forces took over Fort Ticonderoga, which had supplies to boost the revolution and militia forces. After the siege of Boston, preparations had overwhelmed the British forces, and they were forced to leave Boston for reinforcements, and that tricked many militias into believing that the war was over. However, the British forces came back with mightier ships and men. Stay tuned for part 2.